walking you through my special topic, which is plastic and the health of the Arctic. So the Arctic region is seen here on the upper right, and this is a pretty special region since that's at the forefront of climate change and to a greater degree affected by things such as melting sea ice and rising sea levels. So, approximately 4 million people live in the Arctic, and about 10% of this population identifies as indigenous to that land in some way. So, when we're talking about Arctic communities, they're often very remote and geographically isolated, which means that food that you might find at the grocery store has to be flown in. That means everything is really, really expensive. As a result, a lot of people rely on hunted, fished, and gathered foods, so gathered through sustenance practices, for a significant portion of caloric intake. Plastic and microplastic pollution poses a risk to animals and the ecosystem health at large, which can jeopardize access to healthy sustenance in this region because of its heavy reliance on hunting and fishing for food. So, how does plastic end up in the Arctic? Well, the currents bring it there, or people pollute locally. However, one of the bigger problems is that the Arctic sort of functions as a sink for plastic litter from all around the globe. So, plastic does not biodegrade, and particles are broken down over time. When they're 5 millimeters in size, they're termed microplastics. Concentrations of microplastics are higher in the Arctic basin than in any other ocean basin in the world. On the bottom right, we have a graphic that shows the number of microplastics noted in different regions of whales in Arctic regions. So you can see that the melon has a high the melon of this particular dolphin, I believe, has a high number of microplastics as compared to the other regions and animals. The blubber also seems to have a lot of microplastics, and it seems that microplastics accumulate in these fatty tissues. So microplastics biomagnify and bioaccumulate in animals through trophic levels. So as you go up the food web, you would expect to see more microplastics. And this diagram doesn't have any apex predators, for example, an orca or polar bear. However, we would expect that there would be more microplastics in those animals. So how do the microplastics affect humans? Well, we don't have the best understanding of that, but we do know that microplastics have been linked to inflammation, genotoxicity, and endocrine disruption. So, zooming out from microplastics, the plastic industry in general is reliant on fossil fuels. 99% of plastic is made from chemicals sourced from fossil fuels. An Alaskan committee found that production, use, and disposal of fossil fuel industry's products were noted to release harmful chemicals that were linked to serious health conditions. And those health conditions include cancer, heart disease, and hormone disruption, liver and kidney impairment, and also things such as diabetes and developmental harm. So you might be wondering, what about recycling and reducing the amount of plastic that is present? Well, for one, the microplastics are very hard to recover from the ocean and anywhere at this point with the knowledge we have and the techniques we have. And also recycling itself is not a very efficient system. The companies that produce plastic, such as ExxonMobil, know that the public has these questions and is actually spearheading a movement called advanced recycling, which is really just using high heat to incinerate plastic and create a small amount of fuel. This process creates a lot of toxic chemicals, and it requires a large input of energy, and is not not really what one thinks of when one thinks of recycling, which is helping the planet. So what do we need to do? We need to change the culture from recycling to eliminating plastic. So that means ending subsidies for petroleum companies that invest in oil and plastics, creating sustainable alternatives to single use plastics, such as things that are biodegradable, and investing in other forms of recycling that have less emissions and less waste and less byproducts, and also increasing research into the health effects of plastics and microplastics, and the chemical byproducts of plastic production on human health. Thank you so much for listening. I have my references listed below if you would like to go into anything in greater detail. And thank you so much.